Welcome to the Mary Potter podcast. This week we've got two really wild flash fiction stories, from the wizarding world, and we're going to be taking our magical probe and seeing what we can find. Get ready for some stories packed with magic and legendary figures.
Yeah, it sounds like we're heading into some pretty awesome magical worlds based on what you've told me.
For sure. First, we're going to jump into the Viking Age with a flash fiction story called Blood and Bone Magic. You sent us this one, and it's about Ragnar Lothbrok and his connection to rune magic. Our mission, if you will, with this magical probe is to figure out, how these runes affect his raids and what happens because of them. And then we'll switch gears to feudal Japan with Ghostblade, another flash fiction story, this time about Miyamoto Musashi, the mystic samurai. We'll be looking at how he can talk to spirits and his search for this legendary sword, all while he's battling his own demons. Two very different worlds, but both full of magic. So why don't we start with Ragnar's story? All right, let's break down this Viking saga.
Yeah, what really grabs you in Blood and Bone Magic right from the start is how important magic is. Ragnar isn't just a tough warrior. His wins, like when he raids, seem to be because of visions and the power he gets from these bone runes. He's not your average Viking leader, would you say?
Yeah, you're right. The story starts in this really intense scene in the seer's hut. You can almost smell the weird herbs and like the blood in the air as Ragnar is holding this carved bone rune. The seeress chants and he gets this vision of England. The story says it's a land of riches, but then there's that classic twist, riches and ruin. It makes you wonder what the real price is for this easy way to get power and wealth.
It definitely makes you think twice. Like right away, there's this feeling of danger mixed with the promise of riches and power. And it raises a big question for us.
Yeah.
Is Ragnar really in control of his own destiny, or is he being controlled by, forces he doesn't even understand?
Yeah.
Exactly. And this idea plays out in the raid. His longship isn't just sailing the seas. It's the feeling of the bone rune against his skin that guides them through the fog in England.
Yeah.
It's a very vivid image, this real physical connection between Ragnar and the magic. What did that image make you think of?
For me, it shows how, mixed up he is with this magic. Then, the victory at the English monastery is described as almost easy. It's not just because of his skills or his warriors. It really feels like the rune is helping him, maybe showing him where to move, making him a better fighter. It makes you think how much of this win is because of Ragnar and how much is because of the rune. It makes it hard to tell what's a real win.
For sure. It's like he's cheating or fighting on a totally different level. And of course, he gets all the treasure, including this golden crucifix, a real sign of his victory, and, the cultures clashing. The story even mentions the rune pulsing in his pocket, almost like it's happy about making the vision come true. But then as the story goes on, you see things changing as his followers start whispering.
This is where the story starts showing the bad side of this power.
Hmm.
Talk about Ragnar's lucky star, brings him more followers. But it also makes people scared and suspicious. They start whispering about sorcery and deals with evil gods. It shows how fast admiration can turn into fear when you don't understand how someone's so successful. Have you noticed how that kind of unexplained success makes people suspicious?
It's strange, isn't it, how humans are like that? And Ragnar feels this growing uneasiness, too. He starts seeing visions of even bigger conquests, but then that question, was he the master of his fate or just a pawn? That really starts to eat at him. It shows he's not, totally blinded by power. He knows at least a little that it might cost him something.
Yeah, exactly. And the struggle he feels inside comes out in a really brutal way when he fights the Saxon warrior with the cross. The rune suddenly gets super powerful, and the Saxon warrior, even with all his armor, just dies. The story says there's no real blow, just fear in his eyes, and then nothing. That part probably gave you chills.
It did, for sure. I think that's where the line between Ragnar's skill and the rune's magic disappears completely. He looks at his bloody hands, and he doesn't know what to think. This isn't the glorious, hard-fought win he thought it would be. It's something different.
And what's interesting here is that those easy wins, especially that weird death, make us see Ragnar differently. He's not just a successful Viking anymore. Now there's this dark, almost supernatural side to his wins. It makes you ask, does power that comes from magic always make you bad, or at least change how you see yourself in the world?
It feels like the story is saying yes. That prophecy from the seer about riches and ruin starts to feel much more serious. Kings are scared of him, and those whispers we talked about go from admiring a hero to being afraid of a monster. It's like watching someone fall from grace.
And that cliffhanger, where he finds a pouch with more bone runes, that's really well done. It makes you think that the power Ragnar has is just the beginning, and these new runes might be even more powerful, maybe even, like, evil. What do you think could happen next?
So, when we think about this flash fiction story, Blood and Bone Magic, what do you think the big takeaways are? For me, it shows how strong the pull of power can be, especially when it comes from magic, and how high the price might be for using forces we don't understand. The contrast between the easy wins and that creepy death really shows that you usually have to pay something for power.
I agree. It makes you think about what happens when power isn't earned through skill and hard work. It makes you wonder if Ragnar is really choosing things, or if he's becoming a tool for the magic. And at what point does magic stop being a tool and start deciding everything for you? It makes you think about what people want and how much they'll do to get it, even taking shortcuts.
Okay, so we've journeyed through Blood and Bone with Ragnar. Let's head over to feudal Japan and look at the mystic samurai story, Ghost Blade, and Miyamoto Musashi. This story is very different in terms of where it takes place, but it seems to be about a different kind of power, the battles we fight within ourselves.
Exactly. Ragnar's story is about external power and what can happen when you have too much of it. Musashi's quest is more about what's happening inside him. He's haunted by his past, he can talk to spirits, and he wants this legendary sword, not just to be a better fighter, but to find some kind of peace within himself. What were your first impressions of Musashi?
The story really pulls you into his pain. These ghost voices, they're like, his shame, his sins. They never leave him alone. It's like a brutal reminder of everything he's done wrong. You feel this immediate sense of this huge burden he carries. It makes you think about what happened in his past to make him feel so guilty.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Musashi's internal struggles are almost like physical things because of these voices. It's not just guilt, it's like he's being haunted, like his past is always attacking him. This really sets up his search for the Ghost Blade. It's not just about unifying Japan, it's about finding some peace, maybe silencing those voices.
And then this kami, a nature spirit, appears, and it's like a tiny bit of hope in all this darkness. The kami tells him about this sword that could unify Japan and gives Musashi a chance to make things right. But as Musashi thinks, can you really trust any spirit? You never know what they're really after, right?
Absolutely. It makes his journey even more complicated. He's not just fighting other samurai, he's also trying to figure out the world of spirits and what they want. The challenges he faces, both the ones outside and the ones inside, they're totally connected. One makes the other worse, don't you think?
Yeah. We see this inner battle come out in some really intense ways. The nightmares that feel real, his victims coming back from the campfire that's such a powerful image of his guilt that won't go away, and the phantom pain that he feels whenever he hears swords clashing. It's like his body remembers the violence, even though he's trying to forget it. Have you ever come across that idea before? That the body remembers trauma, even in other stories?
It's something you see a lot in stories about violence and its effects. And that moment when Musashi looks in a mirror and sees his reflection calling him unworthy, that's a powerful moment. It shows how much he doubts himself. It's not just others he has to fight. He has to fight this voice inside that keeps reminding him of his failures.
But even though he's going through all this, he keeps going, believing that you have to earn the right to be worthy. This belief leads him to the Ghost Blade in a really unexpected place, a totally empty cave. It's not this fancy treasure you'd expect, but a plain chipped sword on a simple altar. What did you think about how the sword was described?
The description of the Ghost Blade as having raw power and feeling desolately familiar, that's really important for understanding what the sword means to Musashi. It's not some holy or good weapon. It seems to be connected to his own violent past, almost like a real version of his inner darkness. The kami's warning right away, control it or be consumed, shows how dangerous the blade really is.
It's like the sword is his inner demons made real. And then, his struggle in the cave, all the days and nights fighting the blade, it feels like a metaphor for his fight to control himself in his past. The story says the blade fights back, even tries to turn him back into his old self.
And the change in Musashi is shown as something he really had to work for. It's not like magic suddenly fixes everything. It's through a lot of struggle and never giving up that he makes a deal with the Ghost Blade. And you see this in how the sword's glow changes. He comes out of the cave different. His past is still there, but it doesn't control him anymore. What part of this internal struggle and how it bends really stood out to you?
For me, it was the idea that real change isn't about forgetting your past, but about learning to live with it and not letting it run your life. He still has the scars, but they don't define him anymore. He's taken ownership of his past, both the good and the bad. But then, just when you think his problems are over, the story throws in another twist. He looks out from a mountain pass and sees not one army ready for war, but two, and both have his family symbol, led by his brothers, who he hasn't seen in a long time.
Oh man, that cliffhanger's really good. After all that personal stuff, Musashi has to deal with a problem that's both personal and political. Now, the unification he wants for Japan is mixed up with his family's history. It's like his internal battles were just the first step in a much bigger and messier fight. What kind of questions did that last part make you think about?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if being able to control himself will be enough when he has to deal with his family in a war. Was fighting his own demons the hardest part, or will facing his brothers and their armies be worse?
So, thinking about Ghostblade, how do you see Musashi's internal struggles playing out in the real world? It's not just about what's going on inside him. It affects everything, like his search for the sword, how he talks to the kami, and even the kind of power he ends up with.
What's really important is that the ghost plate isn't just a magic item that makes him strong or solves all his problems. Like we were talking about, it's like a reflection of his own darkness, forcing him to really deal with his past. Any kind of unification that comes from a sword like that would be complicated and maybe even have some of that violence attached to it. It makes you think about what a lasting peace is really birthed on.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if real peace can come from someone who's gone through so much darkness inside.
It's a really interesting thought, and one that goes beyond just magical stories. It makes you think that maybe real leadership and change in the world have to start with people looking inside themselves and making things right.
Totally. Both of these flash fiction stories, in their own way, make us think about power, ambition, and the choices we make. It doesn't matter if it's magic powers or fighting your own demons, the choices matter.
So as we finish this magical probe into the wizarding world of flash fiction, what are your last thoughts about Ragnar's quest for power and Musashi's journey to find peace?
I think they're both warnings. Ragnar's story tells us about how tempting power can be and how it can make you a bad person. Musashi's story reminds us that facing your past and accepting it is really hard, but it's the best fight you can win.
Were the gods really helping Ragnar, or was he being tricked by something much worse? Can Musashi really unite Japan with a sword that's so connected to his violence? These are just some of the questions these stories make us ask.
And for you listening, think about this. Ragnar and Musashi both deal with the results of their actions, whether it's from wanting power or trying to fix past mistakes. How do you see these ideas of power, consequences, and redemption happening in the real world, even without magic?
We want to know what you think. What really stood out to you in these stories about Viking magic and samurai spirits? Tell us your theories and what you learned. And if you like this magical probe into the wizarding world, rate and follow the Mary Potter podcast for more amazing stories.
Yeah, it's been really cool diving into these two stories, both different but both awesome, that you sent to us.
And one last thing to think about. In any world, magic or no magic, is real power about controlling things outside yourself, or is it about winning the battles inside? Until next time, keep exploring the magic.